Welcome to Yes Also. I'm Suzi Barrett. My guest today is Asher Perlman. He's a writer for The Late Show with Stephen Colbert and a New Yorker cartoonist, but he also has an accomplished history as an improviser. He's a member of the Improvised Shakespeare Company, he toured with Second City, and he was a cast member on the Second City Chicago ETC stage. We spend a bit of time in this episode talking about touring and the difference between performing for comedians and non-comedians. And part 2 is a treasure trove where we peek behind the curtain of the Improvised Shakespeare Company, we talk about the nuts and bolts of writing cartoons for The New Yorker, and we talk about the really practical aspects of Asher's creative process, including how he finds inspiration on days when he is not inspired. Part 2 is for subscribers only, but you can easily become a subscriber by going to yesalso.supercast.com. And hey, guess what? Asher has a brand new book of cartoons coming out called Hi, It's Me Again. That's released on September 2nd, but you can pre-order it now. And if you are located in or near Brooklyn, he is launching his book on September 5th at the Bell House. There will be tickets available on the Bell House's website or linked in Asher's Instagram. Okay, and now let's go to Asher Perlman. Asher Perlman, welcome to Yes Also.
Oh my gosh, I'm so happy to be here. Long-time listener, first-time caller. I love the show. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so glad I picked up the phone. It said potential spam, and I gave it a whirl, and it turns out it's you. I know you as a late show writer and a cartoonist, but you have this breadth of an improv life that I never knew about. Run me through your improv world and how you landed in improv. And you were a Chicago guy for a while, is that right?
I was. Well, I started out in high school, and I went to high school in Madison, Wisconsin, and there was a Comedy Sports there in the back of a Pizza Hut, no big deal. And in high school, I think when I was 16, I became the youngest cast member. And looking back, I'm sure I was also the worst. But so I started out in Comedy Sports, Madison, and then went off to college, did college improv, and then from there ended up in Chicago, and from Chicago ended up in New York. And those are the broad strokes. But I'd be happy to talk about the bristles of brush, but within any individual stroke.
Yeah, let's look at some bristles. First of all, did you overlap at Comedy Sports with Dave Tooney? He was a Comedy Sports Madison guy.
Oh man, I don't think so. This would have been, gosh, 2002 maybe. I can't remember.
You're
Is that around the same time?
Just later than him. I think he was late 90s. Yeah. Okay, Chicago.
I mean, I loved Chicago. I think I moved there soon after graduating college, which I did in 2008. And I think I moved there primarily on the reputation of Second City, because that was where, that was as kind of a layperson, that was the one I knew about. And so many of my comedy heroes growing up, if you read their Wikipedia, at some point it says, started at the Second City. So I was like, okay, yeah, I'll go there. And then I started taking classes there. I started in the conservatory because there was some loophole that if you had done a year or more of theater, they would let you do that. And also, honest to God, I think it was a mistake. I think that was the wrong choice, because I was my year of theater was doing Oklahoma in high school, and then I'm trying to think of the plays I did in college, Blood Wedding, things that were not directly applicable.
The idea of you feeling in over your head over playing Zip Zap Zop and being I should have done the remedial levels before this. I don't
too
belong
much too fast. I can do Zip. I cannot do Zap. And don't get me started on Zap. I did feel I think I also felt overwhelmed because so many people in the conservatory had already gone through IO, which I didn't even know about, because again, I was just sort of going into it with I just knew Second City. And I think at some point during conservatory, someone said, you really should do IO first. And I was like, well, too late for that. But I think if I were to replay my time, I would do IO, all the way through. And then while on a Herald team, I think then move to conservatory. All of this is just, I don't know why I'm being so hard on 22-year-old Asher.
Right.
But I think that's what I would do if I could do it again.
Why that order? Why not Second City first and then IO?
Good question.
Thank you so much.
Nailing it. I think I don't mean this as a slight against any teacher I had at Second City, but I think that moving so quickly to focus on sketch for me, I just didn't feel like I had the bones of a good improv mind, and we were jumping straight to, oh cool, let's use improv to generate sketch. And I just don't think that I was quite confident or comfortable enough with improv to use it as a tool to do something else. I think it would have been better for me to focus on building that tool set first. And then once I felt really good about it, then use that to turn it into something else. But that being said, I mean, I had a great time. I loved going through it, but yeah, I think that's why.
That's a totally fair point. There's so many skills that you're building while you're learning improv to just like skip ahead into, and now we're turning that into satirical sketch commentary. That's just a lot of walking and chewing gum. But you eventually landed in ETC, is that right?
Yeah, I did. I did a boat first, so one of the cruise ships. Did you ever do a cruise ship? You were in Chicago. I don't think we had overlap. You were in Chicago.
No, I was in Chicago before you, but I got asked to do a boat somewhere around that time, like somewhere around 2010. Because I had just gotten my dog, and that was the reason I got asked to do the Hawaii boat. And I was like, Beth, like, if you asked a year ago, I would have jumped at this. But now I just can't leave this new dog home with a stranger for 3 months while I go.
100%. I love thinking about life in terms of pre-dog and post-dog.
Yes.
And also, as someone who has dogs, I also would make that same. I would I would truly sabotage my career in order to give my dog a better life. So
1,000%.
Totally
yeah, yeah. And but how was tell me about the boat? What boat were you on?
Well, it was the Norwegian Epic, which was the workhorse of the Norwegian
of the
cruise.
Seven Seas.
They always, it was so funny. I think we were on like 5 ships, and I say ship. It was our cruise. Yeah, it's a cruise ship. I remember one time I called it a boat, and I think one of the producers at Second City was like, "It's a ship, Ash." And I was like, "Okay." Anyway, so but I think there were 5
vessel.
It's a seafaring vessel.
Yeah.
I think there were 5, and then the Epic was the one that had the most shows per week. I think we did 15 shows a week while the other ones. But I mean, that's what that was sort of how it was sold to me too. It was like, oh, this is going to be so much. But then you break it down, you're like, oh, I'm working 15 hours a week.
Right.
As opposed to what I'm doing now, which is working a full-time job and then immediately going to IO or Second City and doing shows at night. So I was like, it still feels like vacation, but it was sold as kind of this workhorse. Actually, the hard part for me wasn't the boat. I loved being the ship. The ship. The
frigate.
I loved it. It was because right after I had accepted it, I got an offer from Boom Chicago, which I do think you did, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So I had to choose between the two, and I asked Second City at the time, hey, what if I did one? Like, could I do Boom for a year or something and then come back? And I think the answer was either no, or it felt like the answer, like they were saying, hey, you really should just, like, you've already committed to this, you should do that.
Wild.
And so that was a really hard choice that I never know if I made the right one.
Why did you ultimately choose the ship?
The ship was chosen primarily because they offered me a Tourco understudy spot when I was back. They were like, do the ship, come back, you'll understudy Tourco. So I think the idea of having a soft landing was really nice. And also, because my dream that whole time had been to do a stage, I didn't want to burn any bridges. And also, I mean, to talk about choosing between 2 incredible options. So
yeah,
that's ultimately why. But man, a year in Amsterdam would have been
it's so fun. But talk to me about 15 shows a week and what that did for you as a performer. Could you feel a marked change or a growth or anything?
You know, I think I did. I think the main thing that doing shows on the ship did that doing shows in Chicago didn't necessarily was that the audience on the cruise ship was truly just average people. There were no comedians watching it. There were no performers, who were going through classes at the time watching it. It was just family on vacation, couple on honeymoon, that kind of thing. And I think playing to that audience was a real crash course in what Americans think are funny, not what, improv student level 2 thinks is funny. And I think that was kind of a rude awakening, because things like anti-comedy, for example, does not play, or at least at the time, did not play in a cruise ship context. So I think I had to sort of learn to be less pretentious and more willing to sort of do the fun, easy thing that people want. So I think that was sort of the main thing.
Yeah, that's a huge lesson, and one that we also learned at Boom in a different shade, because it was like, not just what do Americans find funny, but what do, primarily like Europeans and Australians find funny. But it was like that common denominator, the easier laugh, the lower hanging fruit, stuff that you wouldn't think of as clever or challenging or creative. You've got to do it. And it's like, you've got to find a way to own it and make it fun and funny for yourself. That became like the new challenge for us, at least in our cast. But did you find that?
That's so well said. I mean, because that challenge extends even after when I was on Tourco and going around the country, performing arts center in the middle of Oklahoma has a different taste than 20-somethings in Chicago too. So, and then even beyond that, doing a stage at Second City, I don't know what the breakdown of the audience is, but at least the perception is that those are suburban people, people from suburban Illinois, tourists. Again, it's sort of not like a comedian audience. And yeah, I think finding a way to still make something that you love, that you feel really proud of, that you don't feel like you're just making the easy joke, but also not shying away from making I don't know. I think that's something that I was negotiating constantly. And I remember like a specific example in Chicago at the time was the Cubs were really bad. This was before they won the World Series. And there were a few years where basically if you said a joke, and the meaning of the joke was, boy, are the Cubs bad, the roof of the theater would fly off because people were so uproariously into it. And it became like this card you always had, you could play at any point, and it would be like, okay, so if I'm struggling in a set, I can just make a joke about the Cubs.
Right, at least I'm not on the Cubs. Yes! We agree!
Kingham!
Kingham.
But then I don't know, there's a friends and family night at Second City, and I remember like friends and family night, the laughs were so different than the laughs on any other night. And so you'd have these kind of like the lower hanging fruit jokes that you probably wouldn't make at, in the Del Close Theater at midnight, but you're like, I'll do this for the people. And then friends and family night, those things all eat shit because it's mostly other comedians. But then the next night when the regular audience is back, it starts to work again. So I think this is something that you negotiate your entire career. And I didn't find the perfect balance, but I do think it was an interesting question.
Talk to me about the factor of the 15 shows a week in terms of quantity and tuning your like performers. I hate saying instrument, but but tuning yourself to like bringing energy and coming with, did you feel any sort of upward curve in terms of that it was like making you this performance machine, or did you not feel a difference?
No, I did feel a difference. I think, I want to say it was Ryan Archibald who also did Boom. I don't know if, I think he did Boom.
Yeah.
We did
it together, yeah.
Oh, you did? Oh my gosh. Okay, well then if I get this wrong and it doesn't gel with your memory of what he says, then correct me. But I think he was the one who told me the importance of game intros, which sounds so stupid because it's not, you don't even, as a performer, I think sometimes you don't even think about that. But just to answer your question about becoming like a machine, I think the thing that I had to learn very quickly on the ship, and this I did sort of pour it over from comedy sports, was the professional performer attitude of, this is my 1,000th time introducing emotional option or whatever the game is, but it's this audience's first time hearing it. So I need to speak as if I'm really invested in this, and I'm not trying to speed through it to get to the game, even though emotionally, of course, I'm trying to speed through it to get to the game.
Right.
And that was, I think, on a ship too, where your audience is mostly people who haven't seen improv, or if they have, it's whose line is it anyway, or some other version of it that's not exactly what you're. If you're doing emotional option, I guess it is exactly what you're about to do, but it's like a little bit different. I remember slowing down and bringing the energy to those introductions and not feeling like it was lame or something I had to get through. And I remember when I got back to Chicago and I was doing even something like a Herald night where we do the dream. And I remember sometimes there, and I'm not saying like anyone's doing this on purpose, but I feel like there are people who kind of don't appreciate the fact that like they're teaching the audience how to watch the show right now.
Right.
Like when they say this is all made up, none of this is pre-planned, that's actually important information. That's not just something that's not like a fire call where you're like, turn off your phones, the exits are over there. Like, it's something that like they need to hear that and understand it. And I feel like a lot of people would just start speeding through it. I was like, yo, we got to slow down. Like, they need to hear this.
And partially so that you can get credit for the cool ass thing you're about to do. Like, let them know that it's made up so that they don't watch it as if you wrote this and you're trying out your material. Get credit for the trick of it, for how, there's a big overlap with magicians. Like, if you watch a close-up magician perform, he tells you everything that's about to happen so that you can be impressed when it happens. Like, he says, here's your card, look at it, show the person next to you. Like, because if he just says, here's the 7 of diamonds, that's not impressive. But if you look at it and show your friend and they know, and then you see that he's putting it back in the box and he's walking you through it, then it is impressive that it's like suddenly in your pocket,
That's so true. I feel like it's because it's a performance art, and I feel like it's easy to forget either side of that equation.
Yeah.
Like it's so fun to just perform the artistic side of improv and be like, we're really getting into this. We're finding something together. This is group work. This is emotional. This is connective, all these things. But you sort of forget that there's an audience who needs to understand what's happening, or you're on the other side, you're like, hey, I'm going to just sort of perform and only do easy stuff and not really connect with my partners and go for the laugh. And then you forget the art side. And it does feel like you're balancing both sides of the ledger sheet at all times. And if either one gets light, then you're like, oh man, I think I probably need to tweak a little bit to get back to that fine balance.
Yeah, and that is a cool aspect of this art form, that it is both halves. Like, if it's just you guys finding and discovering and connecting, but you're ignoring the audience, then it's just a jerk off session. Like, you're not, because ultimately you should involve them, and it is this synthesis between the two things. But yeah, I love that Arch imparted the game intro thing, because that was hammered into us during our time at Boom, and it really does make a difference. Like, just and it does set up this relationship where you are this band leader. The audience learns to trust you through those intros because you are poised and confident and leading them on this journey. They're more willing to laugh than I think, because they feel like you guys are in control of the show.
100%. Because if you do an intro and there's a bit of nervousness in it, then you're teaching the audience to feel nervous for you and the rest. And I did a show, actually, it was with Arch and a bunch of other people at Second City called Improv All-Stars, which was their short form. It was like an hour of short form. And I remember watching him do the intros for that show, and I was like, oh, this guy's owning the room the way... I mean, I guess now you already said magician, but now that's in my mind, like coming out and really just planting. I mean, this is like all like just like basic theater stuff that if you're a theater kid, you learn day one. It's like face front, speak loud, like all these things. But he just owned the room. And because of that, like you say, the audience can sit. That allows them to sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Totally. Yeah, it's the ringmaster of the circus. If a ringmaster came out and was like, shoot, sorry, I forgot what I was going to say. It's like, wait, what? And game intros are one of the few aspects of a show that you can control. You can run and rehearse that intro for an hour every day. Like, you can get that into your bones, but the rest of it you can't.
Every morning I wake up and I'm just like, this is how to introduce Foursquare. I do it for an hour.
For an hour every day. What an absurd, why did I say an hour?
No, you can.
It really just takes 5 or 10 minutes. But
you do. I remember, like, when I was teaching conservatory in Chicago, whenever there was a show coming up, because the first few shows are, I can't remember the breakdown of what show is what. There are improv shows before you do a big sketch show at the end. There are improv shows throughout the training center process as well. And I remember telling everyone, like, hey, if you're assigned to an intro, don't put that off until the last minute. Like, really run that, because that's going to really matter. So I think running for an hour, what I'm saying is your advice is good advice, not bad advice. 1 hour.
Great. 1 hour at minimum every day. Do you have favorite short form games?
I mean, let me think. I don't want to pretend I do if I don't. I'm not sure I do. I think that I always liked the ones that were the most scenic. And then I think I like the ones that are the least scenic, like, oh my God, what's it called? What Are You Doing? Do you know that game?
I hate that game. Yeah.
I don't even understand, like, what we're doing. Like, we used to do that
just
to
like a brain
shows.
twister. You would open shows with that?
I think it was, I want to say at Comedy Sports, it would be like, okay, so the opening, like the intro game is, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I'm like, what are we doing?
What are we doing? What have I done?
Entertaining to watch?
So for the listeners, what are you doing is like one person mimes an activity. So let's say I'm like stirring a pot and the other person says, what are you doing? And you can't say what you're actually doing. So if I'm stirring a pot, I would say like writing a letter. And then that person has to mime doing that. And while they're miming writing a letter, the other person says, what are you doing? And they go like, I'm flying a kite. We would do it as a warm up. It's a a useful like brain twister to wake your brain up. But yeah, that's so funny that you would open shows with it.
Well, I hope I'm not remembering that wrong. And whoever made that decision, I support them.
I support them, and I believe in that decision. And I actually love it. I love that we open.
Actually, you asked me what my favorite game was. It's What Are You Doing? That's my favorite game.
That's my favorite game.
I love it as an opener.
And I hate scenic games, and I actually don't like long form. Talk to me about long form. Do you feel like your brain is more attuned to short form or long form, or is it equally good at both, or likes both, or what's the difference there in you?
I think I've always liked both. I think when I was coming up in Chicago, I think that I sort of became kind of pretentious about it and decided that long form was better. And then I think as I got older, I just started to appreciate the fact that they were different. And I think that's kind of a phase that a lot of people go through. It's kind of like how, like, I feel like a lot of people in college become a libertarian or something. It's just like a phase you have to go through. And I feel like I was like, oh, long form's the only. And I think, God's honest truth, if you were to say, hey, tomorrow you're doing an improv show, do you want to do short form or long form? I mean, I'll pick long form, 9 times out of 10. But I do think that short form is fun, and I think it plays a role in improv, and I respect it, and I don't feel pretentious about my preference for long form anymore.
Great. I'm
there's
so
growth.
glad. Yeah, there's growth. It's growthful. It is weird that you, for a time, spoke with that accent. The long form is the only form. And you had that pipe.
It.
Yeah. Let's get pretentious a little bit. Talk to me about your journey through learning long form. What were do you remember like key moments where you leveled up, or pieces of advice you got from teachers, or things that that lit up areas of your brain during your learning process?
I'm so self-conscious about this because I kind of don't remember things as well as I feel like other people do. Like, I know you talked to Steve Waltine not too long ago, and I when I was listening to his, I was like, man, he remembers like moments from improv show. I just don't remember. I barely remember yesterday, but of course there are some things that I remember. One thing that really stood out to me, and I guess it standing out to me is kind of an example of it, is Andy St. Clair, who he's in LA now.
Yeah.
But he used to talk about, I forget what he called it, but it was something like the golden glimmer or something like that. And it was basically that moment in a scene that draws your attention and you can't explain why, but you can feel the room shift to it. And Golden Glimmer is so, I wonder if that's what he called it. That definitely was the idea of it.
He's like, he listens to this. He's like, Asher, I called it the game of the scene. Why are you saying that I said Golden Glimmer?
Andy St. Clair talks about the Golden Glimmer all the time. He wrote a book called The Golden Glimmer. His show is called Golden Glimmer. He's the Golden Glimmer guy.
His website is goldenglimmer.com.
I full on did not have to bring up his name at all. I could have just said someone once.
Yeah, it's so funny.
But at least the way I remember the Golden Glimmer is it's just the thing that catches your attention. And when you're new in improv, and I heard it when I was, so it was really important to hear at that moment. It's so easy to miss because you're planning ahead, or you're trying to figure it out. You're just not paying attention. You're not relaxed enough. And if you're relaxed enough and paying attention enough and not planning ahead, then you're able to see that thing that's like, oh, that person just said that word wrong, and everyone clocked it. So I think that gives us something. Let's have fun with that. And then that becomes the scene. That was a huge thing for me.
Just being willing to notice something and dive in once it appears, rather than clinging to the thing that you started with or the thing you thought the scene was going to be about.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which I think for writers too, because I am a writer, I remember when I was teaching, there were writers in my class, and I was like, oh, they all plan the scene, because that's what they're used to. They're used to being the god of the page, and anything they say, goes. And then, and again, I'm talking to myself as much as them, relaxing that impulse and letting the scene be whatever it is, regardless of what you think it quote unquote should be. That was that's a challenge.
Yeah, it's interesting. Being a good writer is such a superpower, and it's interesting that once a good writer lands in improv classes, it can actually be their kryptonite, rather than their superpower. It can work against you if you're rigidly planning or thinking that you can predict what the scene is. Did it take you a while to adjust that? What? Yeah. How did you eventually get rid of that planning habit?
I feel like it was because early on, I remember taking the bus up Clark Street to IO and planning possible opening lines, which is it's so humiliating. But I was like, that would be a really good one. And then I'd be like, because if I say that, then someone can respond this way. And then that would be so fun, because then we can, and all of a sudden I'm just writing a scene in my mind. And I think honestly, the experience of having that not go well is what taught me not to do it, because then I would come into class, use this canned line that I had planned out, and then it doesn't go the direction I thought it was going to. The scene is struggles at least in my mind, struggles. Who knows how it's being perceived? And then I'm like, okay, so maybe going in with that big of a plan was a mistake. So I think I learned to not do that. And then I think the other thing I learned over time was, I feel like improv's kind of like one of those finger traps where you want to, and your initial instinct is to just apply as much effort as you can and just pull. And then the key is obviously to just relax, and then it comes. And I feel like that was something, again, I learned over time. It was like, I probably had a scene where I found just that I was a little bit more relaxed. And then afterwards, why did that go better than every other scene I've ever done? And then relax becomes the default state.
Yeah. And again, the irony is it's not something you can work on. How do you work on relaxing? You have to, that's one of those things that just comes as a function of hours spent doing it, right? It's the longer you do this and the more comfortable you become, the more relaxed your scenes are over time.
Oh, man. Yes. I think so much I think it's Ira Glass who has that quote about being creative. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Is it the taste one or different?
It probably is, because I'm going to paraphrase, and I bet in the actual quote he says taste. Wait, say
he
yours
says
first.
Golden Glimmer. Let's say it.
Andy St. Clair is suing the shit out of Ira Glass.
They're in this like just all out fight through the courts right now. Let's say it at the same time on the count of three. No, the one I'm talking about is he talks about when you are an artist or creative person, you have a certain level of good taste. Like you are able to see other people's work and go, I like what they're doing. They're good. You have the taste for good creative work. But there's a gap between your good taste and your ability to produce the quality of stuff that they're doing. So the tendency is to beat yourself up because, like, you know, there's a great composer that lives in you, but you're comparing yourself to John Williams because you can identify his music as good, but you go like, I'm not there. And so all artists of all disciplines go through that time period where there's just too great of a gap between their good taste and their bad output. And the key is to just muscle through those years and practice and get better. Is that the thing that you're talking about or no?
I'm so glad you went first because yes, and that was so much better articulated than I was going to do.
I do think we could have said it at the same time. And
but I think that I feel like in improv that was so true because you're also, and maybe this is true of other creative pursuits too, but like when you're going through classes, you're watching shows every night. So you're watching really good people all the time. And you can't practice it alone. Like that's part of the education. And so you're like, every night you're confronting that. And I don't know, maybe that's true of everything. Maybe if you're learning how to play guitar, you're listening to really good guitar players all the time.
But the difference is you can practice guitar alone in your room and you don't have to eat shit every night in front of 60 people.
Most
with
of whom are
partner.
incredible guitar players who are at the bar kind of paying attention to your scene.
Right. And have the power to put you on or take you off the team that you're on. Yeah. What a wild crucible that is.
Guys, Django Reinhardt is at the show tonight. We have to put on the best show.
So you did Herald's at IO, is that right? Were you on a Herald team? Did you like doing Herald?
Yeah, I do like the Herald. I mean, by the end, I don't think we were doing Heralds anymore. So I guess that says something about how much we liked it because obviously we wouldn't have shifted if it was all we wanted to do, but yes, I like the Herald. I think the Herald is tough. I think the Herald is hard to do well, and I think it's like an interesting default form because it is challenging. I guess I haven't thought about this a lot. I wonder why it is the default form because it is like it's not the easiest one,
right?
But it is,
and it's
the one
not
that
the easiest for audiences to follow along with. Like unless you really know the form, it can be really weird to watch if it's not done well. And yeah, it's interesting. My girlfriend is taking improv classes right now, just purely socially and creatively, just to like meet friends in LA and like have fun.
That.
It's great. But she's made the observation. She went to a Herald show and she was like, "Why is that what everybody's learning?" I was like, "Yeah,
they should be doing a JTS
question.
Brown. JTS Brown should be the default form.
That should be the default. Yep. Yeah. The weirdest, hardest. Yeah. I mean, if we reverse engineer it, it really is because that's what Del was working on. And Sharna was like, there's something to this. And then she like commodified it, right? I mean, isn't that why we all do it? And nobody's ever like changed it.
A question. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. That's the history I've heard as well. So I guess that's what I'll go with. But yeah, that has to be it.
Great. We solved it. So we've reached the end of this podcast, and this will be the last episode, and that's it. Do you have any memories of like bad corporate shows?
Oh my God, I love bad corporate shows as a genre. Is my favorite genre.
It's the best.
I think the roughest touring company show we had was a police union in like Southern Indiana, I think.
Here we go.
And they had an open bar for hours before the show. So it was drunk police officers, and then we were doing like it was like I think it was like
anti-cop sketches.
It was all just ACAB scenes, just one after another.
Yep.
But I think it just from the opening scene, we could tell it wasn't going to go well, and then it just went worse and worse. And then, oh man, do you know the scene Cold Feet? Have you ever heard about this scene? It's Tim Mason and Tim Robinson. I think it's from. I'm like going to name the show as if that matters to anyone. It's from spoiler alert, Everybody Dies. It was, I think, their first review together on Maine. And the scene is a father and a son talking about the son's marriage the next day. He has cold feet. That's why it's called Cold Feet. And the dad is trying to convince him that he should go through with the wedding and that it's just nerves. Being married is great. That's the scene. And there's a moment pretty early on when the dad says, "Do you know how great being married is? When you get married, you gain your wife's brain." And in that line on the road, maybe because it's kind of like a, kind of like a little bit of like a sitcom-y relationship, line, just absolutely killed every night. So we would open the show with Cold Feet. That line's pretty early on. That brings everyone in the house, on your side. And you're like, this is going to be a good show. Yeah. When that line didn't land well, you were like, oh my God, it actually reminds me of, have you ever done musical comedy? Not improv, but just like planned musical comedy?
Like a musical? Like
I mean like comedy songs.
Like Adam Sandler style?
Yes. Yeah. Like that.
Yeah.
That is so fun to me because you have, there's a backing track. And I guess this isn't Adam Sandler because he plays guitar, but like people who come out and they have a backing track and they're like, let me start my comedy song. And then when they do the chorus, which is supposed to get a big laugh and it doesn't, and you can see in their eyes that they're like, oh my God, I have 90 more seconds of this. I'm going to say this exact line twice more.
Yeah, I have to repeat this
chorus. And it's supposed to be funnier every time. And you can see their lives flash before their eyes. They're like, the track continues.
Yeah.
That was that moment in Cold Feet where it's like, okay, so if you don't like this, you're not going to like the rest of the show. And we're literally on Act 1, Scene 1.
Right. This is the fourth line of the show. It always kills. It didn't. You hate us. Whatever the opposite of a golden glimmer is, that's what's happening.
A dull silver glint.
A dull silver glint. A tarnished cloud. Yeah, that is. And did they become rowdy and restless because of the drinking, or you don't remember that detail?
I'm going to go ahead and say we did not win them over, but maybe we did. Maybe I forgot. Although actually my most traumatic memory from Turco wasn't even a scene. It was when we played a college, and when we got to were you on Turco?
No. Okay,
so I mean, but you tour a lot. Have you ever played a college?
Yes, tons. Yeah, I did. Sorry, to clarify, I didn't do Second City Tourco, but I did UCB Tourco and Boom toured a lot. So I've done like two different categories of that. Yeah, but tons of colleges. Yeah,
you've toured more than I have. Okay, so when you show up to a college, and sometimes they sort of adjusted the space for you. Like we showed up to a place, they were like, "Hey, this is going to be where you're playing," and then this side of the. I'm trying to remember how. So they were like, there's the bath. We don't have changing rooms. We don't have a green room, but we have bathrooms on this side of the theater that we're going to reserve for you. So those are your dressing rooms, and they're both women's bathrooms, but that's okay. We're marking them off for you. So the men took one of those bathrooms, and then the women took the other of those bathrooms. And before the show, it was totally fine. And then at intermission, because the audience somehow it wasn't communicated to the audience that that's for performers. So I had gone in to use the bathroom, and it was a woman's bathroom with two stalls. So I took one of the stalls, and then, I mean, like a movie, as soon as I sat down, like pants around my ankles, 100 audience, not 100 young women, 100 audience members at my show walked into the bathroom, And then one of them takes the stall next to me, and the rest are waiting, both for the person who took the stall next to me and me, who they think is just another person using the bathroom. So then I just sit there for the entirety of the intermissions, like, 17, 20 minutes or something.
So
and they're
looking like you're taking the world's largest dump. And people are like, I recognize those shoes.
Those enormous black dress shoes that it looks like you can't afford to replace. Wait, that's the performer from the second scene.
Oh, that's so funny.
It was hell.
Yeah, that was hell. We did a tour show for UCB one time at a Lutheran college. I don't remember where this was, maybe South Dakota. And they prepped us beforehand by being like, this is a dry campus, and we don't want any swearing in the show, and no like sexual humor, and just please keep it, clean and whatever. And as soon as the show started, it just became clear that the audience was like, this is our time to like say what we want. And when they ask for suggestions, it's like, yeah, like can we have a word to inspire a monologue? And they're like, anal, It's like, but like, how do you corral that back onto the rails when the audience just does not want to? They didn't get debriefed to not swear.
I heard Amal Clooney, everyone. Okay, we're doing a scene.
Right, yeah.
Because now they're disappointed that you can't, that like, you're taking these suggestions, but like they think that you're just choosing to not do anything fun with them.
Exactly, right. We look like unskilled, like cowards who aren't really improvising, who are like, did I hear laundromat in the back?
No, I said anal.
Yeah, we all said anal. And I also remember that at the end of that show, the woman who had been like our liaison or whatever, she was like, as I said, it's a dry campus, but I'd like to take you guys out for drinks off campus. And we were like, oh, okay. I mean, what? And normally you want to like hang out with the crowd or, sometimes like go to parties or whatever. And it was just us with this woman who took us to like this steakhouse and bought a bottle of wine and was like, I am dying to be an actor. What advice do you have for me? And should I move to LA? Do you all have agents? Like, what are your connects? It was like just a nightmare. Yeah.
Oh my God. And also, I mean, I don't know where you were at. I mean, I feel like when I was touring, I would have been like, cool. Hey, question for you. How do I get an agent? And I want to move. I want to be an actor. Should I move to LA? Like,
we were so disappointing to her. We were like, I wish I knew. Like, I
make $800 a month, friend.
Yeah.
I have no answers for you.
What do teachers at this school make? And can you get me in? Yeah. You saying college tours reminded me of this memory. I think it was like Arizona State. That's the big party school, right? Yeah, like it was. Yeah,
I believe you. I don't know.
It was. I think it ranks like number 1 or number 2 every year for like party schools. And we were kind of warned that heading in, they were like, the audience like might be wasted and blah blah blah, and they were. And the
turns out not lying,
not lying, accurate info. The show for that started with like us asking someone to volunteer to be interviewed, and we would interview them and then pull premises off of the interview. And I remember this guy like towards the back of the room, like his hand shot up, and I think it was Joe Wenger was like, yeah, okay, we'll interview this gentleman. And he goes, yeah, and stands up, reveals that he's wearing rollerblades and like rollerblade slides down the aisle of this giant theater to get to the stage. Yeah. We were like, oh no. And as predicted, it was an awful interview and generated very little premises.
That's so funny. It's never the person you want. The most enthusiastic person is usually not who you want. Sometimes it's just like a really sweet, enthusiastic person, and most times it's rollerblading guy screaming, "Oh yes!"
Right. You never want that guy. You never want the person like pointing to their friend, like raising their hand for them. Run from those. Talk to me about, you do improvised Shakespeare, yeah?
Yeah, I love that. That's a show I love doing and have always loved doing.
Let's tuck into that. Talk to me about why you love it and your process of your learning curve of learning it. What a show full of heavy lifting.
Oh man, it's funny. It's heavy lifting, but the group is so strong that you never feel. I mean, this should be how you describe all improv, but everyone's sharing the burden, so it doesn't feel heavy. Yeah, that really should be every improv show. But no, I joined. I was kind of the second generation of it because it was started in Chicago, and then I think maybe a few years after it started, they needed more people to join the cast. So I want to say there were maybe like 10 original guys. I'm going to get the facts wrong. It's something like that. And then they needed to add more to fill out the shows to accommodate when people were out of town or moving to LA, et cetera. So when I joined, I was so intimidated because these were all the guys that I watched coming up in improv and just completely idolized. And then slowly over the course of years, I finally became comfortable enough to feel like I belonged. But it was a lot of fake it till you make it with that show for me.
Your education of Shakespeare previous to this, were you coming in with a breadth of knowledge, or did you have to kind of start crash coursing yourself on Shakespeare plays and tropes and language? I
mean, both. I definitely crash coursed because it had been a minute. But when I was 8, I think I started when I was 11 maybe, until I was 16, I did a thing in Wisconsin called the Young Shakespeare Players, which is a children's theater troupe that does unedited Shakespeare plays.
What?
Year round. And I think I did something like 10 of them or something.
Wow.
When I was a literal child. So I had read and performed a lot of Shakespeare. And one of the crazy things about this group, or one of the good things, is that the director is so passionate about the fact that he was insistent that kids could do Shakespeare, but he knew they would need a little bit of help. So every role you played came with a cassette tape, or in some cases multiple, if you were a big part like Iago or something. And it was called your explanation tapes, and it would he would read every single sentence and then tell you what it meant. So, because he was like, I don't want you just performing it, I want you understanding what it is I don't want you just memorizing it and saying the lines. I want you to know what you're saying. So I kind of had an intense Shakespearean education from a very young age, and I loved it too. I loved it.
Man, what a gift. And the dedication of it was that one director reading every line of every role and explaining each one on those tapes.
Yeah, because I think he was a professor first, and I'm going to get the lore wrong, but the way I'm remembering it is that someone at some point said kids can't do Shakespeare, and he took that as a personal challenge and basically created this company to prove they could. And then, yeah, I do think the tapes were all him. So, and we did shows so he had every line of every play for at least 20 plays.
Wow.
It's a staggering amount of work. Yeah.
Like some drunk guy at a bar just says, kids can't do Shakespeare. And this man is like, I will spend the next 35 years.
Like 100%. I'm so glad he did. It was really fun.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so cool that I've never heard of something like this where children are cast, where like an 11-year-old is playing King Lear. I've, heard of kids being in Shakespeare shows, but usually playing roles that are, suited for Romeo and Juliet, for example.
In high school you get like teenagers playing. Yeah,
sure.
Totally.
Yeah. But yeah, what a gift. When you do improvised Shakespeare, what are do you get the title of a play from the audience, the title of a Shakespeare play that hasn't been written?
Exactly. That's the suggestion is the title of the play, and then that's all you get from them for the whole show.
And then do you guys have, I don't need you to like spoil any like secret formulas here or anything, but like, do you have any sort of plan going in where it's like, I'll be the lead or do you just go in cold and it's whoever jumps off the back line with something goes for it?
You go in cold. I mean, I'll spoil everything. I'm racking up the people who are going to sue me going out of this. So it's Andy St. Clair, and now Blaine Swen is going to sue me for giving away all the trade secrets.
For part 2 of this episode, go to yesalso.supercast.com. If you like this podcast and you want double the content, head over to yesalso.supercast.com and subscribe. You can also help us out for free by subscribing to us on YouTube and talking us up to your improv communities. If you have a question that you'd like us to answer in one of our Q&A episodes, or a topic that you think would make a great bonus episode, put it in a 5-star review. If you're a theater who would like to host us for a live recording and improv show, let us know at yesalsopod@gmail.com. A very special thanks to our producer, Ryan Rosenberg, audio and video editor, Brian Kessler, and Britt Faye, who does our marketing. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week. No, we won't, Suzi. That's not how podcasts work. They won't even see us. They will listen to us, so it's actually the opposite of both things you said. Thanks for listening, and you will listen to us next week. Maybe. We don't know.